Hey guys, welcome to another episode here at the Hidden Why Podcast. Lee Marnuzzi with you. This is episode 1167. Excited about today. Once again, always excited about my interviews. And today was, with no exception, I sit down with Marcus Aurelius Anderson. He is a leadership catalyst. He's a best-selling author. He's a TEDx speaker. And he's a US Army veteran as well. And what a remarkable story he shares of his own adversity that he faced. And now he's sharing his understanding of adversity and why it's so powerful and important for us to understand to help us all in the adversity that we're dealing with in life. Not only the tools and tactics and strategies you can deal with it, but just really the philosophy, I should say, behind adversity and what that means for us as humans and how to navigate adversity so we can live more freely, live with more meaning and find more joy. Hope you enjoy this interview with Marcus, guys. Check it out at hiddenwhy.com, episode 1167, and all the show notes there. Links to Marcus are there as well. We'd love to hear from you. Leave your comments and reach out if there's anything we can help you with. Enjoy. G'day, Marcus. Welcome to the Hidden Why Podcast. Great to have you here today.
Thank you for having me, man. I'm looking forward to this. Thank you.
No, I am too. Topic of adversity, very important one, right?
You have to face it at one point or the other, right? So there's only two ways to deal with adversity, correctly or again.
Yeah. I mean, I just did a reel on it and I thought, adversity, like, what is it? And we all experience adversity in life. It's, sometimes more significant than others. Some people maybe have greater adversity than others, but we all essentially deal with adversity. Yeah.
We do. And I've noticed that I've had people come up to me after they hear me speak or they read the first book, or they'll say, I haven't been through something as difficult as you, but ... And I try to stop them and say, listen, adversity is not a competition. No
Yeah.
matter what adversity they faced, it's probably bigger than mine in some way. I'll share a story. In 2019, I was speaking in Florida, and I went up and I did my keynote. There were about 500 people there. And then, there's always people that want to talk to you afterwards. And so there were people there, and a young girl, probably about 15, comes up and runs up to me and gives me a hug, who I don't know. And she says, your story is my story. And I'm like, oh, okay. And her parents and her little brother are there. And then she kind of runs back to them, and then she kind of runs off, and her mom comes up, and her mom's got like tears in her eyes. And she said, our daughter was human trafficked.
Yeah.
And we just got her back. And that's the first time we've seen her outside of the family touch another person.
Wow.
So imagine what she went through. Imagine her telling me, oh, wow, your story is my story. And she was like, you're so brave. And it stopped me in my tracks. It's like, geez, there's no telling how much adversity she endured. And yet here she was. And here she is telling me that I'm brave. So,
Wow.
yeah, we all have to face it. And
What a courageous young woman, huh?
it is. And it made me really stop, and it made me be appreciative. It's like, geez, there's always somebody that has it worse. There's always somebody that has it better. And we also have to understand that adversity doesn't mean that we're doing something wrong. It just means that you're human. So
Yeah.
don't get caught up in the fact that maybe I'm responsible for this or I pulled this in. It's like, man, sometimes stuff just happens. And the relationship that we build with adversity is everything, because it indicates how we conduct ourselves in the face of it, how we conduct ourselves the next time we face it, or how we perceive it even before it arrives to us. So we can't live in fear. We can't live this like cautionary life. We have to live in abundance, but we also have to have the courage and the resilience to know that, adversity is, even as we speak, it's approaching us. You and I were talking about this before we hit record. But if I see it as something that's inevitable, now it doesn't like ambush me, because I know that it's coming in some way, shape, or form, right? I always say that I'm not surprised when I face adversity on a road. I'm surprised when I don't.
Mm.
So that's the way I look at it.
What can you share your story of adversity? Because I know you went through some
Absolutely.
fairly
Absolutely.
life-altering moment.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll give you a little bit of the backstory. I was going to chiropractic school in the United States. 38. I was 2 years from finishing my doctorate, working all the time, freshly married. I've been married for about 2 years at that point. And my great uncle passes away right after I get divorce papers.
Oh,
So having a loss of somebody significant, a
yeah.
significant male role model, and then having that, that's that 1-2 punch and it really sets you on your ass.
Yeah.
And
Relate.
for me, I was doing 25 hours of doctorate level courses. And in my mind, I thought that I was obviously demonstrating that I loved my wife at that time because look how hard I'm working.
Mm,
But I wasn't feeding the relationship. I wasn't giving her what she needed.
mm,
And in my mind, oh, well, in 2 years, I'll be able to open a practice and then we'll be able to live our lives. And then I'll be able to pour into this relationship. And now I'll actually treat her the way she needs to be treated. That was on me.
yeah.
And after my great uncle passed, my great uncle was in Vietnam. He was in special forces. He was in LRS. They call it long range reconnaissance patrol, LRS control patrols.
Oh,
And he's the one that was my biggest male role model besides my father. And my parents were divorced when I was 8. So he's the one that would take me out in the woods, take me hunting, tell me about honor, respect, humility, work ethic, all those things. And I'd forgotten in a lot of ways about that part of him because he was a lifer. But my father calls me. I was in Atlanta and this is in Tulsa, and he calls me up. He's like, Uncle Ronnie's sick. Come home. And by the time I got home, he was already gone.
mm,
So I brought a suit just in case, and I was the lead pallbearer for his ceremony. But in the United States, if you're a decorated veteran, they're going to give you the full regalia. They're going to give you the entire ceremony. They're going to have man after man go up and eulogize you if you've actually served. He had done 20 years,
yeah.
and so he was also my godfather. He and my great aunt were my godparents. So I was good until they started playing taps and they started folding the flag and they started doing the 21 gun salute, and then I just fell apart.
Uh-huh.
And I'd always wanted to join the military and I'd always had a reason not to. And so the following week I go in and talk to the recruiter. I'm like, I'm 38. Can I get in? He was like, well, why do you want to join? I told him my story. And long story short, he was like, are you smart? And I said, well, I'm talking to a sergeant to enlist in the military at 38 years old. Do I sound smart to you? But what he meant was, how would you do on a placement test? Um, I I did well on all of the testing, physical and mental. And he was like, listen, I'll let you in right now. And I said, I want to do what my great uncle does. I wanted to be a ranger, a special forces, or a Green Beret. He laughed in my face. I have a degree in human biology, and he says, let's just send you to officer candidate school, and then they'll place you according to the needs of the Army, which is sort of a BS way of saying you're not going to get that.
Right.
But my great uncle was enlisted, and I said, what if I went enlisted? He's like, you want to go in as a 38-year-old E4 grunt? And I said, is that my best path to get to where he was at? He was like, that's probably your only path. I was like, let's do it.
Well,
So 6 months later, I'm in the infantry school at Fort Benning, getting yelled at by a bunch of guys that are younger than me, and then competing against guys that are half my age.
yeah.
But that's what I needed. With adversity, there are two ways to deal with it, correctly or again, like we said. But there's also this idea of either I jump in head first, and now I have to sink or swim, or I slowly, incrementally increase it. So I go from the incremental to the monumental.
Mm.
But in this case, there was no incremental component. It was like 4 months, and they
Jump
owned me.
straight in.
I had to, and so I had no other choice. And when there's no other choice, the choice is simple: you survive or you break. And this was back in 2011 when they were still trying to be very selective about who they let in, and they would challenge us a lot. We'll just say it like that. How about I say it like that? So, but I got through that. I got stationed at Fort Drum in upstate New York with 10th Mountain Light Infantry Division. For those of you that have heard of Black Hawk Down,
Yeah.
that was the division that came in to help extract Delta and Rangers whenever they got knocked down in Mogadishu. And I wasn't with them at the time, so that's not what I'm saying. But when you had that sort of like historical significance, it makes you really, really aware of it. And then they train you around that. We
Mm.
would literally do training that was called the Mogadishu Mile. And you're like carrying stuff, you're engaging, you're running, you're doing all this stuff because they found out urban combat is very different than just being able to run 2 miles in a fast time. That's not exactly what you're going to be conducted in. When I was with
Yeah.
Fort Drum, when I was at Fort Drum, when we were preparing to deploy, about a year later, I ruptured a disc in my neck, and it leaves me paralyzed from the neck down. And
Mm.
I have them knocking on my door, and we had been doing a lot of intense training leading up to it. And they, I yelled at the door, I can't move. And they knew I was the kind of guy that's not going to joke about that. So they beat in the door, they get me, take me to the hospital, and they put me under. And I wake up in the ICU, and they say, "Welcome back to the land of the living." And I find out from my surgeon, he says, "We lost you a couple of times." I didn't know what he meant. And he says, "You flatline."
Right.
So I wake up, he tells me that. And then he says, "I also have to tell you that if you were going to recover from this, it would have happened by now because we've removed all the disc, we've fused your neck. Anything that's impeding your central nervous system has been taken off." And he's like, "Can you feel anything?" And I'm like, "No, I'm the same way."
Yeah.
He's like, "Well, I have to tell you this because I don't want you to have any illusions." Um, but I'm still trying to process what all he said. He's like, "I'll come back and visit you later." I'm in denial. I have that arrogant soldier. If you're a soldier in the U.S. Army, you have to believe you're bulletproof. You have to believe you can do anything.
Yeah.
And so you get this like hubris, this arrogance. And I was like, they told me I died. I should be able to just walk this off. Um, After they came and got me, after being there in the ICU for a week and bringing me back to my unit, that's when it became obvious. This is not something that I can just live in denial about.
Wow. That's hard hitting.
It it makes you really take a look at your life. I turned 40 years old in the ICU, broke, divorced, bedridden, and paralyzed, trying to figure out what the hell do I do now?
Mm. That military mindset you talk about, I mean, that's quite powerful in itself. I mean, you could say it's arrogance or ego or something like that, but it still is a mindset that allows you to, move through some serious challenges.
It does. It's interesting. We see social media as this sort of necessary evil, and I see a lot of guys on there that are, drive, 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 grind, 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 loud music in the background, black and white, images, and their, you know, team no sleep hashtag, blah, blah, blah. And they're always pushing. But I sort of laugh at that because in my mind, it's like my mind was literally strong enough to break my body. And these people that are out there sort of like acting like they're these, alpha males, if you will, they've never been to a place where they have actually pushed themselves to that degree.
Mm. Mm.
So it's interesting to me because it almost shows me it's like, oh, they're trying to put on this facade of something when in actuality, if they had been through something like that, or if they really were at this level, you would see it manifest in other capacities, not trying to beat their chest on social media
Yeah.
about what a badass they are. Because
Well, there's a lot of
once
that,
you've
isn't
been
there?
through, there is, and even people like Jocko or like David Goggins, like I've got to know those guys a little bit. And when you have a conversation with them beyond just like this snapshot, you see there's a lot of depth to these men. They've gone through so much, they've endured so much, they've overcome so much. And there's a lot of texture within them. But social media likes to kind of put us in a box, and they check that box and then they kind of push you into that because they want everybody to be titillated within the first 6 seconds of you being on screen. And the reality is that's reductive and false most of the time.
Yeah.
So when you face adversity, it's supposed to be hard. And everything that we're talking about adversity now, all the stuff I teach, I want everybody to know that you can understand it philosophically and understand the steps that we're going to give you. But at the end of the day, you will still have to face the hardship, the discomfort, the not knowing. You'll still have to go through the 5 stages of like grief. You'll have to go through denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance, and it will not be skillful. You will
Mm.
fail. You will start in one area. You'll go from denial to anger. You'll stay in anger. You'll go back to denial because you don't want to admit that this may be real. You go back from denial, anger, back into bargaining. You'll maybe get caught in there a little bit and hope, hey, what if I do this, or if I pray this, or if I use these mantras, it'll change stuff. It's just not going to happen. We have to go to this place of radical acceptance, even if it's not what we want, even if it's not what we think it should be. Let go of what your expectation is. Instead of saying, this is where I ought to be, or this is what should have happened.
Mm,
No, pay attention to where you're at right now.
mm.
Because if we're thinking about other stuff, we're missing the present moment. And that's the most important moment we can have for anything.
Talk about doing hard things, like as far as building character goes. It's probably quite easy to, run a marathon or do some deadlifts, but doing that in a situation of adversity is different things, like what what you've learnt through your military training.
Yeah. And I also had a lifetime of martial arts leading up to that. I started
Right.
doing martial arts when I was 11. So that helped. The beauty of the martial arts is the philosophy is built into it. So attention to detail, honor, respect, humility, perseverance, and this indomitable spirit, right? And to those that are listening, they're thinking, "Oh, this guy has a lifetime of martial art experience, and he was a, badass in the military. It's going to be easy for him." No, when I was in that place, when I was paralyzed, I was mad as hell because it wasn't fair.
Yeah.
I was doing all the right things. I'm a good person. Why is the universe or God doing this to me? All these other people are screwing people over and making money, or politicians, hurting the common man. And here I am trying to do the right thing. And I wrestled with that for a long time because there's this, they call it the just world hypothesis. It's this
Yeah.
cognitive bias. It's this cognitive distortion that we have based on good things always happen, or the good guy always wins. But if we look throughout history, history is written by the winners. So according to history, the good guy always wins, but that's not always the case. So instead of thinking that because I'm a good person, that entitles me to do something, no. You have to elevate to this level that adversity is making you do it, and then become a good person in the face of it,
Mm.
irrespective of what else is going on. And that's why it's hard, because I can tell you a bunch of quotes, I can give you a bunch of stuff that'll motivate you, but when you're in it and you feel like quitting, you have to understand that this is part of it. Feeling lost on your path is part of your path, and you cannot get there any other way.
Mm. Can't avoid it. Can't go around it.
No, if we try to, in my TEDx talk, I say adversity shows up unannounced at the most inopportune time without apology. It couldn't care less about what you want. It doesn't give a damn about your feelings, and it doesn't take no for an answer. If we try to avoid it, it can crush us. If we try to go around it, we can never circumvent its grasp. By trying to avoid it and the struggle,
Mm.
not only will we have to face the same adversity that we would have initially, but now we'll have to do so already fatigued from trying to avoid it in the first place.
Mm.
And that's the truth.
Well, let's talk about it. You've written a couple of books now. Your newest one, which I think is behind you there in the video here, Acta Non Verba.
Yes, sir.
And your previous one was The Gift of Adversity.
Yes, sir.
So your new one's just about to be launched, so very timely for this podcast. But
Yeah.
written two books about it. You've obviously gone through some pretty radical stuff that's allowed you to, give you credibility on this topic, nonetheless. But what is adversity? Like, how would you define adversity?
Are you familiar with Stephen Pressfield?
Yeah,
He wrote The War of Art. He talks about
that's right.
resistance.
Yes. Yeah.
So I've been lucky enough to have him on my show a few times, and he's actually, I would say, a friend now. So when I was lying in that bed, unable to read or move my hands or my body, his voice was in my mind. And there's a line from The War of Art, and I'm looking at it because it keeps me honest. And it says, we have two lives, the unlived life within us, and then the life that we lead. Between the two stands resistance. Now, resistance is anything
Mm.
that like slows us down. It's like self-sabotage, it's procrastination, it's saying I'll do it later.
The fear.
And I knew what I was facing in that bed. I was like, maybe the way I had conducted myself around resistance before is what led me here. But what I was facing was much more like aggressive. Like it had tried to take my life
Yeah.
twice, and it was taking all of my physicality. So in my mind, this was a much more aggressive, dare I say, adversarial form of resistance. So he capitalizes resistance with the capital R. That's why I capitalize adversity. Adversity is a natural law, and like the law of gravity, it doesn't care about your opinion when you try to lift something heavy. So anything that is trying to stop you from getting where you want to go, that to me is resistance. Anything that is actually to the place where it is literally making it almost impossible for you, that's when it's inverse. That's when it is adversity, because
Okay.
now it is the thing that's, again, a lot of people went through adversity in 2020, right? A divorce, bankruptcy, losing your business, a loss of a family member. All those things in my mind are adversity. It's a step above resistance, because resistance we all are aware of. Adversity is that thing that does not allow you to escape it, and you have to face it.
Right. So it's a more major obstacle of life and your life path,
It absolutely is. And like I said
because it doesn't
before,
matter which path you take, it's going to be there.
it's absolutely going to be there. And the other part is, adversity is not there to hurt us, it's there to show us that we have to change.
Right.
And most of the time,
How do you
we
look
will
at
only
that,
want to
like with,
change.
adversity of losing someone, as far as how you have to change? And I could probably actually, I've just answered my own question almost, but losing my dad a few years ago, I look at
Yes.
that and go, that's an external thing that you can't control. And what is the lesson for me in that adversity? Um, and I know the answer to it now, it's just by talking about it. But I think a lot of people will be going, yeah, but those things, that's adversity that I have to deal with, but it's nothing to do with me. What does that mean that I have to change?
Right. So tell me, what did you learn from your adversity?
Well, I learned that I need more balance in my life,
Mm,
because I went through that experience and just kept working. I worked hard, had the best year in my career, and I went through burnout, right? And then I went through a
yes, you did.
separation a year later. So
Mm,
that really taught me to go, okay, there's something that miss here. And I worked hard. I always have been a hard worker, but that led me through this process of, okay, I need to find more balance because it can't be all about this. And that's what I've been working on for the last couple of years. So yeah, there is a massive lesson in that.
brilliant.
But I
So tell
wouldn't have
me
known
what
it at the
balance.
time.
Yeah, of course not, right? Because we have to have that punch in the face to make us see. Adversity shows us what's really important to us.
Mm,
We have
yeah.
no idea what we really want or what we really value or what we really believe until it's been ripped away from us.
Mm,
So in my TEDx and in my first book, I give people three questions, and I say, besides the obvious hopes of recovering fully, if you woke up tomorrow paralyzed from the neck down, what do you wish you would have accomplished with your life? What regrets would you harbor? And then if you were able to walk again, how would you live your life differently?
mm,
So loss like
interesting.
that externally is something that we can't control. And again, being paralyzed is the same thing. And I know there are a lot of people that enjoy philosophy and they enjoy pontificating or doing these like mental gymnastics to say, oh, well, memento mori, I'm going to remember that I have to die. But I was doing that at a very young age and I still wasn't giving it the kind of gravity that it was due, right?
Mm.
And for what you're talking about, I would ask you, what does balance mean to you? Like, define it.
Well, balance is more aligned with my values, living aligned with my values. Spending the time in health, spending the time with family, spending the time in nature, spending the time doing the things that bring me joy, and not just forcing myself into a box or a career or a vacation that misses those important values, which is what I was missing. So it doesn't
Yeah.
mean that you don't work and you just sit around and watch Netflix. It's doing the things that matter.
Yeah. Could I offer you a perspective?
Yeah.
When I talk to, I have a lot of like CEO clients and they say similar things, but in their mind, balance is this thing that it's almost like I'm on a surfboard, okay? Where, okay, I'm balanced. Now, if they hold on to this idea of balance right in this second when they're not falling down and they stay in that place, man, the world's going to move. And trying to hold on to that balance makes them lose their balance and they fall. What I try to tell them is I tell them, I don't want you to think about balance. I want you to think about learning to adapt more skillfully.
Mm,
So if somebody comes up and tries to attack myself or my wife or my daughter, I don't care about balance at that moment. What I care about is taking all of my intention and aggression and being as violent as I can for the next 10 seconds right now. There is no balance. what am I doing? I'm doing the appropriate thing in that moment. I'm adapting as skillfully as I possibly can to what is necessary. And once that's done, now I can turn that off and I can come back to this place where I can breathe. And it would be more of this similarity to balance that you're describing.
Mm.
So when we're doing stuff in business, and like you're saying, I've had many clients where if you look at them on paper and you look at their businesses, you're like that this person's got it all and they're miserable. And I
Yeah.
know this is classic for people that
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
listened to this sort of stuff before, but they
Still
weren't
relevant,
pouring
still
into their
true.
yeah, they were not pouring into their marriage. They weren't pouring into their children. And the thing is, the whole reason they're working so hard is for their family.
Mm.
But yet what happens is they have been this slave to their own grind and they push, push, push. And there's a part of us that says, okay, if there's adversity, this means I have to push through it. But there's a point in life where we have to start realizing, you know what? There's some adversity that we cannot overcome. I was not able to overcome the adversity of my paralysis until I completely capitulated and just accepted that this is the way it's going to be for me for the rest of my life. And I had to find something else. I had to find gratitude and like radical, no BS gratitude.
Yeah, you talk about that in your work.
Yeah. And I know a lot of people that do some gratitude work, but they're
What
not
is what is
really,
radical 360 no BS gratitude?
yeah. So that means I can be just as happy for winning the lottery as I am for the person that cuts me off in traffic and gives me the bird. That means
How do you
I'm
have
grateful.
gratitude for someone that cuts you off in traffic?
Yeah. I'm just grateful that they didn't cut me off. They didn't hit me. I'm grateful that I have the capacity to sort of laugh about that and not be mad and go into a road rage,
Yeah.
that I have the capacity to adapt skillfully, right? I don't want to just tailgate this person and get out and give them a piece of my mind.
Mm.
That person has other stuff going on and I don't know what it is,
Yeah.
but me honking at them or trying to follow them or trying to be aggressive to them is not going to change anything that they're going to do.
Not
So
going
it's
to
very
change the
much this
moment that happened.
that's it. It's like I just get out of the way. And here's the other part. We see a lot of people in society like that now, where in America, you'll see some people that have their cell phone, they'll have it on speaker and it'll be loud and blasting. And they're just talking away to whoever this person is. And it's like, now, not only is that rude, but this person completely tells you in their behavior, through their Acta Non Verba, their actions, not words, that they don't care, that they are self centered, and this is just what they're doing. And you can come over and say whatever you want to them about it. All they're going to do is get ugly with you, and it's probably not going to change anything. So, understanding the gratitude that I can have for that is like, man, I'm grateful I'm not that person. And for me, what I had to find was,
It's a different
I believe I
perspective,
would have
isn't it?
been, yeah, I had to be, in my mind, I was going to be injured no matter where I was in the US. So if we had been in Afghanistan, because I was here injured in the US, I was grateful that I wasn't injured in Afghanistan because for every one man that is injured in battle, it takes two men to pull him to safety. So my team would have been put in danger. Another
Yep.
team would have been put in danger. And if you watch any TV show that has a guy that's hurt in combat, there's a big Chinook helicopter that flies in, and that's a big target too. So I wasn't grateful that I was injured, but I was grateful that nobody else was hurt.
Yep. Yep.
And that was my cornerstone because I was like, wow, I'm lucky because I had to find anything to counteract all the anger that I had.
So you talk
But once
about
I had
the
that,
stages of grief. You go through denial,
absolutely.
anger. What are there? There's 5 steps, isn't there?
Yeah, denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and then finally acceptance.
Okay.
And between denial and anger, there's this feeling of like this loss, this resentment.
Mm.
So you're in denial because your hope is not true. And then when you start to believe that it could be true, that's when you start to have all this regret of all the stuff you were going to do, all the stuff you're going to do next week, all the stuff you're going to do next quarter, all the stuff you're going to do next year. And now it's no longer an option. So that's why I would vacillate between all of those things.
So you go
And
through
people,
denial, a bit of regret, which then makes you angry because you're pissed off you didn't make more of the
yeah.
time you had.
And there's those microcycles, right? Denial, anger, bargaining, back to anger, back to bargaining, back to depression. I mean, back to like all the beginning stages of it.
What does bargaining look like?
Bargaining looks like, okay, what if I do all these like mantras,
Right.
if I pray, and there's nothing wrong with doing those things, but if you hope that those things are going to do the work for you, you're misguided and you're actually putting energy into something that makes you feel more like a victim than a person that actually has agency in your life.
Mm.
I can't control what else is happening. I can control the fact that I'm in this position. How am I choosing to conduct myself in the face of this?
Yeah.
Am I going to make this into something that makes me just a mean veteran? Because I was 40 at the time, so I could have had another 40 years of my life in that bed, unable to take care of myself, having somebody else have to take care of me, living in a home.
Mm.
So for me, it was like, well, if this is what my life is, and I accepted it radically, I let go of expectation, let go of recovery, and just said, if this is it, what can I do? Controlled my breathing, controlled my mind, and then realized, okay, well, I can still choose to show up the way I want to. I can still choose to not be a complete unbearable person.
Mm.
And once I had that radical breakthrough, that's when about 2 weeks after that, I started getting feeling back on my hands and my feet, a little bit of movement. And it wasn't a lot, but if you haven't had it for months, it
Kind
gives
of
you the most
amazing.
important thing. Yeah, it gives you something that you hadn't had. It gives you hope.
Mm.
And then you slowly kindle that. Um,
That just fuels the
I
motivation to keep taking the action, right?
That's it. And
Just
so
not
even to
give up.
this day, that happened, what, 2012? So that happened a long time ago, but I still have neuropathy in my hands and my feet. I still have numbness.
Hmm.
So I can function, but like going back to chiropractic school, for example, being able to palpate somebody's spine and adjust them, out of the question.
Yeah.
The school was like, listen, you can use your GI Bill to pay off what school you've done, and if you want to finish and get a doctorate, you can call yourself a doctor, but you can't practice.
Yeah. Mm.
So in my mind, it's like, okay, if God gives me the second chance, and I'm 42 now, I'm not going to squander it, and I'm also not going to go back and just compromise to do something safe. And I had no clue what that looked like, but there's a book that came out by Robert Greene that year. It's called Mastery, and in that book, he says, when you're not sure where to go back to the beginning. So for me, the beginning was what was the stuff that I really loved when I was a young boy,
Mm.
martial arts philosophy. So I had a friend that had a studio. We've been training martial arts together for almost 20 years, knew him before I got in the military. He's like, come out. And mind you, at that time, I was about 60 pounds overweight. Like I had lost all my muscle mass. My whole body is still just like in chaos trying to figure out what I'm going to do.
Mm.
But that was just being able to like, hold my hands, be in a stance, do a kick, do a takedown, hold a weapon. That was my real rehabilitation.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what allowed me to start to slowly step into these places where I have agility, I have balance, I have dexterity, I have the capacity to adapt skillfully.
I was going to ask you about that adversity you went through and what it sort of taught you. What was the lesson in that adversity? And you sort of just
Uh,
touched on it, going back to where you started and reconnecting some past dots.
yeah, adversity has taught me everything from urgency to real gratitude to, man, even like empathy, right? Adversity forces us to be resilient and strong,
Mm.
but I need that resilience and that strength so that I can deploy compassion to somebody who may not be.
Yeah.
Or if they fall down and I'm strong, I have the wherewithal to pick them up. If we're financially strong, if we're successful, right? You can say, "Hey, listen, I know you're going through a hard time. Here's this money. I don't want it back. I just want to help." So that's what we're supposed to do with this. We're supposed to look at that adversity and say, "What is this teaching me? What is it forcing me to adapt to?" And I want people to think of adversity almost like friction. So if I'm rubbing against something on my arm and there's friction, it will absolutely rub me raw. And eventually I'll get to a place where I can't go anymore. That's what burnout literally is, right?
Yeah.
But if we look at friction, if we look at a blade, for example, a knife, it's friction from the stone that actually sharpens it. But what is it? It's very precise. It's very angular. It's intentional. It's almost surgical.
Mm.
So allow whatever that adversity is as a form of friction to knock off the edges of whatever behavior you shouldn't be doing. And then the next step to that is saying, okay, if we're trying to use it as a place to step, it now becomes no longer a friction. Now it's traction. Now it allows me to have a better footing. And now I can go beyond this thing. I can go above it. So it actually becomes a catalyst for me to elevate.
No,
But I have to be
good way.
willing.
Mm.
I have to be willing to see what it is. And I have to realize that's going to be hard. But what's harder? Just sitting here rubbing myself raw, living a life of quiet desperation and mediocrity and justifying that sort of existence,
Yeah.
or deciding that I need to do something else. And most of the time, here's what happens. There's there's a bigger adversity that hits us in life that forces us to look at this little bitty one that's actually an inconvenience more than actually real adversity.
Mm.
And once we do that, it's like, wow, first of all, that wasn't as bad as I thought it'd be. Second of all, I wish I had done it sooner. But the real lesson is, where else am I doing this in my life? And why am I tolerating that sort of behavior?
Mm. Talk about friction there, and you sort of touched on the internal calling, I suppose, that we have within us, and us not living towards that. That creates a lot of friction in life, and I think some often that it brings this adversity naturally towards us to help us
Yeah.
pull that out, I suppose.
It does. And we talk about these cycles of acceptance, right? These 5 stages of grief. Lots of times we have multiple cycles going and we're not aware of it. So it could be a breakup, it could be a loss, it could be something that happened from a long time ago, right? If you want to go deep into it. And until those things go all the way through fruition into the 5th stage of actually accepting it,
Mm.
we're just wasting energy in those things all the time. A good example, you have a CEO that's built a multi-million-dollar company. They're finally there. They're not satisfied. They're not happy.
Yeah.
And they've always had this like fantasy of saying, I just want to backpack through Europe. That was the dream that drove them. But now they're in this place of success. That dream has to die because they don't have the capacity to go back in time and be untethered and be a 21-year-old who's just living in hostels. But they have to allow that thing to extinguish itself on its own volition. Or I have a CEO client where I actually told him, go to Europe with your family, give yourself a couple of days away from them, and just get a taste of what that would have been like. And within 24 hours, he was on a train back to where they were. He was like, you know what, this isn't what I thought it was going to be anyway. So as a 21-year-old, that idea sounded great and it drove him and it did what it was supposed to do. But for this dream to like actually come to fruition, these other dreams have to die. And that means we have to allow these other expectations or beliefs. And we hear about people, it's like you see them in businesses, partnerships, relationships, where you can see this person living in denial because it's more comfortable than admitting the fact that they're not happy or that this is not where they should be. But people will create confirmation biases in their mind to justify or find a way for them to be right. And they'll stay there because even though it's uncomfortable, they would rather know the devil they know than this other adversity outside of them, which actually is probably where they should be going. Yeah, I can't hear you. Can you hear me?
Hello, hello. Testing, testing. One, two,
There
three.
it is. Yeah, I hear you now.
We're back. Sorry,
Yeah,
guys.
we're
We
back.
just had a moment blackout there. I think I
You
moved
lit.
my mic and I must
There
have
it was.
bumped something. Very sensitive chords, this thing.
Yeah, it created some adversity there. So
Yeah,
what
I was
was your
talking
question?
about
I apologize.
the conundrum, like the acceptance almost of denial in that denial stage. And well, I wanted to ask you the first question is what is radical acceptance, And then we can go back to, I feel in today's society, a lot of people are in that space of just accepting it is what it is and not having the courage to move through whatever that adversity might be that's challenging where they should be really going. But let's start with radical adversity.
So radical acceptance is just the ability to let
Sorry,
go
acceptance. Yeah.
of hope, of
You talk about
expectations.
expectations. Yeah.
Yeah, it's imagine watching like the World Cup, right?
Mm.
Imagine watching the World Cup and not caring what team wins and just observing it. So it allows me to see it from a detached perspective, right? The Japanese in martial arts, they call it mushin. It means no-mindedness, but it allows them to have this quiet, soft attention. So I
Yeah.
can watch both teams and I can be like, this striker's really good, or they're about to score this kick, or they're being aggressive, or they have momentum. And I can see what's really happening because I'm not intoxicated by the emotion of preference. I don't
Mm.
hope that one wins or the other one loses.
Yeah.
I'm just there watching it. And that allows me to be very honest about what happens. That's radical acceptance. It's the same thing in our lives. If I'm hoping to close a business deal or I'm hoping to convince this person of whatever this is, I'm hoping to do something. But if I can meet people where they are, I can't teach them anything. Only adversity can do that. But I teach people about adversity and I let the lessons meet them where they are. And that's this understanding that adversity doesn't care about what you want. It's going to do what it's going to do. Whatever your preferences doesn't matter to it, but we can always control the way we respond to it. We can control how we view it. And that's the part of it. So you were talking about how people kind of get stuck or they get paralyzed,
Yeah.
paralysis, if you will. What are they doing? They're in those stages of denial, but what else are they doing? They're building nobility around this idea of being mediocre. If they're
Mm.
a person who's not making a lot of money, they build nobility around the fact that, well, all rich people are evil. They weren't doing it the right way. Or if they're unhappy in their relationship, well, everybody's marriage is like this.
Yeah.
Is it? I mean,
Mm.
that's the idea is saying, listen, just going along to get along or just accepting it, that's one thing. But
It's really interesting. Yeah.
and the crazy thing is, so there are three things that we can control in our life always, and the only things we can control: our thoughts, our beliefs, and our actions. Period.
Mm.
Anything outside of that is completely outside of our realm. Now, what do we want to do? We want to control other people's beliefs, other people's thoughts, other people's actions, other people's preferences, the weather, the outcomes, all that stuff, but I cannot control any of it. Ironically, if I want to influence other people, the best way for me to do that is to control, guess what? My thoughts, my beliefs, and my actions. My Acta Non Verba, right? If you want to know what somebody believes, don't listen to what they say, observe their actions, because that
Yeah.
will be the litmus test for everything that they truly believe,
Mm.
irrespective of what they say.
Mm. Mm. I like it. Acta non verba. So what does that stand for? The action, not words, right?
Yeah, and in Latin, it means actions, not words.
Yeah.
And every person I've ever met that wants to write a book or start a business or ask somebody out, they're kind of in that place of, I know what to do. I'm just not acting. It's like, it's not going to be pretty. It's probably going to be sloppy. It's probably going to, you'll look unskillful.
Mm.
You're not going to get that date every time. You're not going to get a yes every time. You're not supposed to.
Yeah.
So if we look at any skill set that we've ever had, from the martial arts to any kind of sport or whatever it is, the very first time we do anything, we're not skillful.
Mm.
But we accept that because we understand that that's part of the process. But when we're worried about the expectation of succeeding or the expectation of what other people will think when they see us look unskillful, um, in my first book, there's a quote by Winston Churchill, and he says, "When I was in my 20s, I used to worry about what people thought. When I was in my 40s, I stopped worrying about what people thought. And when I was in my 60s, I started realizing nobody was thinking of me at all in the first place."
Mm.
So most people today, whether they admit it or not, they are completely self-absorbed with a cellular apparatus or something else to keep them occupied. So if you're worried about falling down in front of those people, they're going to have a short attention span anyway. And whatever they think or believe or snicker at doesn't matter.
Highly irrelevant.
Absolutely.
Getting the tools to, and we talked about this actually before the interview, but getting the tools to help you through all that dealing with acceptance and no expectations and what other people thinks and being
Mm,
really grounded, I suppose. There's a lot of tools, and I want to share some of the things that you do perhaps to help you deal
absolutely.
with life. But there's also to a point where you can sit in a space, and I think this happens where people go through this space of continual learning. Oh, I just need to figure out something else. I'll listen to this podcast or read that book, and
Mm,
they keep
yep.
going in this loop of learning, and not taking the action. And then I think that causes a point of despair where you go, oh, well, I really can't do it, and then go back to just acceptance of the status quo, or whatever their position is, and then form, like you said, nobility around that.
Yeah. So before I was 40, I would read books. I'd read about philosophy. I could quote Stoics and people that were Taoist and Zen, and I could talk about leadership and I could quote all these people, but I realized that I was just regurgitating what somebody else had already digested.
Mm,
Like they took the time to do it, and now I could say it and make me sound smart. And I'd pat myself on the back, or I would appear to be well read to somebody else who hadn't read the book. And I thought that was what wisdom is. It is not. Wisdom is knowledge that you take in and then apply radically to see if it's true or not. So
mm,
knowledge that is
I like that.
acquired but unutilized is the equivalent of ignorance in my mind.
Yeah.
And at 40, I realized that I was pregnant with all this potential, but I kept waiting, kept thinking I would do it later, kept thinking of these other things. So for people that are here that are like, I'm going to buy this other book that has the 7 secrets to that or the 12 like keys to this. My question is, why aren't you applying the books that you've already read?
Mm,
Why aren't you applying the other stuff that you've already paid for, the other podcasts that you've listened to? And I know that I'm an author and we're on a podcast. I have a podcast and this is part of it. But what I'm saying is, what else has to happen before you start taking action on what you already know to be true?
mm.
Like what else has to happen? Do you have to lose your health, a family member, your wealth, your like what has to happen? What adversity has to punch you in the face to get you in a position where you will actually execute on this thing
Mm.
and start to do it consistently? That's the real question. And if you think that adding more tools to the toolbox, man, it just makes the toolbox heavy. And guess what? The more you put in there, you start realizing, I'm not even going to use this stuff anyway. Why am I
You
even
give up.
trying to fill it up? That
Mm,
there it is. And now
mm.
you place the nobility around it. Well, I've read that book before.
Didn't help me.
Um, yeah. Or how many people do we know? They're like, yeah, I read a book a week. No, you don't. You skim a book a week and you don't value it, because if you valued it, you would actually sit down and read that thing for a couple of months
Whole big
and
space
take
there in
notes.
sales, though, isn't there? Like to tell
Absolutely.
those people,
That's it. And we see it all the
here's the
time.
next course that's actually going to help you get there.
That's it. And I even see it in martial arts where, you get to a certain level. And when you would get to like certification or a black belt level, they would even start giving you more like secret techniques even then. And that was by design to kind of keep you on the next level to do these different things.
Mm,
But in my mind, it's like all the stuff that's actually valuable, it's all simple. Even in martial arts, there are no advanced techniques. There are simply techniques that you could do well in combination while in the face of adversity, period.
yeah. Mm,
Simplicity is everything. It's the answer. Complication is usually procrastination, right? People are trying to make this more complicated than it needs to be, get a bigger slide deck, make a bigger business model. It's like, this costs more time, more money, more energy, more manpower. Like if this were simple, what it would look like. And then tell
mm,
me what that looks like. And now you
yeah.
see them. Well, this, perfect. Let's try that and see if it works. Well, I want to do more research. Again, how much more research do you need?
Can be really simple, can't it? Like if you look at and I'm big on values, but I think if you look at your fundamental values and go, okay, well, it's family, it's, um, I don't know, helping others, whatever it might be, and you just
Hmm.
incorporate little things in your day that sort of touch on each of those values,
Absolutely.
it can give you this amazing level of fulfillment. It's when we go, oh, I don't have all this other stuff, the expectations that we have attached to the value of family or success or whatever it might be,
Yep.
that we then really get honed in just on one area and we forget about what we actually value, and we then get hurt. We become disillusioned and pissed off.
Yeah. And the universe has a way of using adversity to remind us of that. So,
Yeah.
like you were saying, getting back into nature, praying, meditating, these are ways for us to let all the other stuff go. Even in meditation, right? I hear people say, oh, I can't calm my mind. That's not the goal.
Mm.
The goal is for 20 minutes in your day to let go and not try to control anything and just try to focus on your breath. And your mind will naturally wander and you'll naturally think about the next thing or what this person has said, or you'll have a song going through your mind. That's fine. There's a Zen teacher, his name was Master Dogen, thousands of years ago. And he says, just sitting down and attempting to meditate is in and of itself nirvana, enlightenment. Because a lot of people think, again, this expectation that enlightenment will make everything easy. It doesn't. It doesn't change anything. It shows you that there is illusion. It shows you that you're building a lot of nobility around things that don't matter. And then you still have to unload the dishwasher and you still have to drive home and you still have to have a conversation with that coworker. It doesn't help you escape any of the other adversity that you still have to face.
Mm.
And when we do that and we don't romanticize any of it, and we just make it this brass tacks, unvarnished truth of what's happening, we lose that expectation. And then we say, where else can I let go of disillusioned expectations that are not serving me or actually inhibiting me, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Love it. Do you meditate?
Absolutely.
Any particular form?
I've done all kinds,
Yeah.
TM, regular stuff, but at the end of the day, it comes down for me to just take that 20 minutes.
Yeah.
If I can do two, that's great. But the idea is that's the time. So for me, I've never had like the enlightenment break in during the meditation, but what it does is it gives you more bandwidth later on.
Mm.
And now you've cultivated empty space. And now on the drive home or getting out of the shower or on your workout, you get that download from the universe or God. And it's like, hey, here's your clarity.
Mm.
So hoping that you're going to get this like Bafo Zingo enlightenment with the bells and whistles and lights during meditation, you're chasing the wrong thing because you have a expectation.
Mm.
If I just sit down and even then I'm doing mental gymnastics and I have a monkey in my mind the whole time for 20 minutes, I've still succeeded.
Mm. It's one of the most interesting practices, isn't it? I think most difficult and most most difficult and most beneficial, yet so simple. Really.
And like you said, what are we doing? We're stripping away everything else. There's no KPI, there's no metric. Sit down, shut up,
Like
see what
just
comes
just
up.
sit there. Like how easy could it be? It's not like going to pump some weights for half an hour. You
Right. And then
just got
it's
to
like,
sit there. But yet it's so
do I have,
difficult to just sit there.
it is. And then they're like, I need to focus on my breath. Well, what sort of breathing? Just breathe, just relax,
Mm.
just pay attention. And if they can
Yeah.
start from that, that gives them a better capacity. We see now that people don't have presence. When they're speaking, they're not actually listening. They're waiting for their chance to make their point,
Mm.
or they're trying to fix this person, or they're trying to poke a hole in what they did. But we find now that even though there's more information, there's less connection. There's more AI slop, but there's less wisdom.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's more social media and less actual social connection. So the answer to all these things is to go the other direction. Everything's complicated. The simplest thing I can do is sit down and shut up and just breathe.
It's marvelous.
That's a good place to
Works.
start. Yeah.
What the question that I should have asked you? Do you think that about your book or this topic of adversity that I haven't touched on?
No, I mean you've done a great job. I thank you for sharing your adversity. Um, I just if people just see quotes or hear me speak, if they see clips, if they don't have the context of all of it, then I just kind of sound like a guy that's up here. Hey, suck it up, Buttercup. Embrace the suck. And it's like it's not really like that. There's a lot more to it.
Yeah.
And I think that that's what we have to understand. And then also we have to understand that every single person that we're facing, to kind of quote, Epictetus, like every person that that you talk to now is facing some sort of adversity that you have no clue about.
Mm.
If we all took our collective adversity that we're dealing with and put it on a table and then saw what everybody else is dealing with, we would grab ours back in a heartbeat, because it's like, okay, this person has it harder, this person has it worse. And when we do that, that gives us the capacity, I call it pragmatic empathy. And now, again, I can give that person who cut me off in traffic and flip me off, I give them empathy. Hey, man, I don't know what's going on, but I'm just glad I didn't get hit. So that would be my advice on some of that.
It's yeah, I mean, there's so much adversity out there, and I think this whole idea of radical gratitude and radical acceptance is powerful stuff. There, if you can only just listen to someone else's story, like yours you shared today, or that girl that you shared earlier on,
Yes.
it really starts to put you in place and go, what the fuck am I so worried about? Or what the fuck am I so angry about? Or there's a lot of it that we are pissed off about or getting angry about or getting stressed about is totally insignificant until you're lying there on the bed getting told you're paralyzed.
When you're lying in a bed for 4 months, you realize the kind of car that you drive, the size of your house, or the clothing that you wear doesn't matter. The amount of money that you have in the bank is just a number on a computer screen or a slip of paper. And no matter how large or impressive that number is, it cannot give you your health back once it's been ripped away from you, or
Mm,
give you your time once it's been spent. So if all the things that society values are truly not with any worth, what really matters? And just like you said, we see what those things are, right? Most of the adversity that we think is adversity is inconvenience at most. Most of our pain that we have is
mm.
just discomfort. But what's happened, we've become so unresilient now because we can get anything we want at the push of a button, from food to entertainment to education. And then we complain that our latte is not hot enough or the Wi-Fi is not fast. It's like, are you kidding me? Like, up until this century, people had to still have the capacity to farm, to hunt, to defend themselves. The people that have actually succeeded well before us did it without the internet, did it without somebody teaching them, did it without a podcast, did it without
Made
AI
it
doing
too
it for
easy.
them, right? But what happens? If more information was the answer, everybody now would be happy, healthy, fulfilled multimillionaires with six pack abs.
Yeah,
That's not what I'm seeing out there.
no, not at all. Not at all, mate. Marcus, thank you so much for sharing today. What
Thank you.
is the best way for people to connect? I've put your details here
Absolutely.
in the show notes. But
Yeah, they can go to marcusaureliusanderson.com. It's my website. You can join my inner circle for free, and it's a newsletter that will not spam you and will have valuable stuff in it. My first book is called The Gift of Adversity. You can find that on Amazon. My TEDx talk is out there. It's called The Gift of Adversity as well. Came out in 2017. I'm wearing a blue shirt and I got the shaved head. And then my second book, Acta Non Verba, Transforming Adversity into Victory Through Actions and Not Words, which a lot of the stuff we've been talking about today will be in that book. It's going to be on pre-launch soon. So follow me on Instagram or LinkedIn or whatever your favorite social media place is. And if you listen to this and it was powerful for you, send me a message. Let me know.
yeah, absolutely. Guys,
Absolutely.
check it out. We'll have all those links in the show notes at thehiddenwhy.com. So make sure you check it out and reach out to Marcus. Marcus, thank you so much, mate. Been
Thank
an
you.
amazing conversation today, and I really
Was this
appreciate it.
valuable? Yeah.
I loved it. I loved it. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. What
Yeah.
are you going to take action on immediately as soon as you're done with this?
What I'm going to take action on immediately is create the show notes.
Yeah, yeah. But
But
for the 24 hours, like besides that, like what is the thing? What is this giving you urgency to actually execute on? Is there anything
for
that's
me
been kind of sitting
personally,
there?
look, I like to do a lot of meditation myself, so I like to
Right.
digest this and sit on it and think about the important messages that I got from this, which there's
Yes.
numerous. And sorry, I've just got a chicken banging on my door here. How good's that? So yeah, I mean, I need to reflect on that and think about what's the most important thing for me. For me, what I get out of this is really, again, because I'm guilty, is looking within and looking at those things that I really want to do in life and really being bold to take action on them. Because often there's things that I don't. And that's what I think I got out of this really more than anything.
Yeah. Once we realize that we're going to fall down when we try it, and we just make peace of that, we get up, dust ourselves off, realize we're not made out of porcelain. We keep stepping in.
Yeah, and I've
And
heard that this week. Actually, it's been a bit of a theme. It seems interesting how things come to you in themes, but
it's
must be a
crazy,
reason
right?
for it.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
there was another conversation I was listening to, and they were talking about this whole topic of just taking that action, that action that is calling you, and not being afraid of it, and not being afraid of the failure. But the problem is, a lot of us have that fear of failure and fear of what other people think, and like you said, no one really cares. No one's really watching, and if they do, they probably won't remember anyway. More important to take that action and have that failure than to sit back and not do anything.
And one final thing on judgment: if you're worried about what other people think while you're going through adversity, you're taking your eye off the ball. And the people that have an opinion about what you're doing, unless they're out there in the arena with you, why would you even give a shit about what they think?
Mm. Yeah, yeah. No, it's wonderful, mate. Thank you, guys. Again, check it out at thehiddenwhy.com. All the show notes will be there. Until next time, peace, passion, and purpose. Speak soon. Cool, man.
Thank you, Wiz.
Okay, that's a wrap. Thank you so much for tuning in this week to this interview. I hope you enjoyed the conversation we had. Make sure you check it out at thehiddenwhy.com for all the show notes and links to our guest. And if you have any comments, any suggestions for the show, please make sure you reach out as well. Also, would like to just ask a favor. If you do like what you're listening to, if you love what you're hearing, make sure you subscribe. Whether you're listening to this on iTunes, wherever it might be, subscribe to the podcast so you can stay up to date with all the latest episodes and some exciting changes happening this year at The Hidden Why, including the launch of our new website, which will be updated very soon. So watch this space for that, guys. And once again, live more fully, have more meaning, find more joy. We'll see you around the next interview.